The Northmen, a terror from the sea, the Vikings, raiders, pillagers, from the frozen north they came, fierce warriors, unafraid of death. They ravaged the coasts of Europe for centuries. Their brutality was legendary. Their gods, unforgiving. Their hunger for glory and gold, insatiable. But who were these men? What drove them to such extremes? Their story is a saga, a tale of blood and ice, and it all began in Scandinavia. Bjorn Ironside, a name that would echo through the annals of Viking history. Born into a world of ice and fire, Bjorn was destined for greatness from the very start. His lineage was one of power and legend, his father being the renowned Ragnar Lothbrok, a name that struck fear and respect into the hearts of many. A young Viking warrior, eager to prove himself. From a tender age, Bjorn was trained in the ways of the warrior. He learned to wield the axe and sword, to navigate the treacherous waters of the North Sea, and to survive in the harsh, unforgiving landscapes of Scandinavia. He stood on the precipice of manhood, gazing out over the vast expanse of the sea. The horizon called to him, promising adventure, glory, and the chance to carve his name into the sagas of his people. The sea was not just a body of water, it was a gateway to the unknown, a path to immortality. His eyes burned with ambition. The fire within him was unquenchable, a relentless drive to achieve greatness. He was not content to live in the shadow of his father, he wanted to forge his own path, to become a legend in his own right. He longed for the day he would join his father in battle, to raid distant lands, to feel the thrill of combat, and to earn his place among the warriors of Valhalla. The stories of his father's exploits filled him with a burning desire to prove himself, to show that he was worthy of the name Ironside, to return home laden with spoils of war. The treasures of distant lands, the gold and silver, the exotic goods, all were symbols of his success and prowess as a warrior. Each raid was a test, a challenge to be overcome, and a step closer to his ultimate goal. Bjorn was raised on tales of the gods. Odin, the All-Father, whose wisdom and power were unmatched. The stories of Odin's exploits, his quest for knowledge, and his role as the leader of the gods were a source of inspiration for Bjorn. Thor, the god of thunder, whose strength and bravery were legendary. The tales of Thor's battles with giants and his protection of humanity filled Bjorn with a sense of duty and courage. He aspired to embody the qualities of these gods, to be as wise as Odin and as strong as Thor. These were the deities who shaped his world. Their stories were not just myths, they were the guiding principles of his life. The gods were ever present, their influence felt in every aspect of Viking society. Bjorn's belief in these deities was unwavering, and he sought to honor them through his actions. His fate, like that of all Vikings, was intertwined with the sea. The sea was their lifeblood, their means of exploration and conquest. It was both a friend and a foe, offering opportunities for wealth and glory, but also posing dangers and challenges that tested their mettle. It was their highway to adventure, their path to glory. The longships, with their sleek designs and powerful oars, were the vessels that carried them to new horizons. Each voyage was a journey into the unknown, a chance to discover new lands and to prove their worth as warriors.
Wow, the sea, our path to glory. The vast, untamed ocean was a symbol of the Viking spirit, a testament to their courage and determination. For Bjorn Ironside, the sea was not just a path to glory, it was his destiny.
Life for the Vikings was harsh. The winters were long and unforgiving, the land unforgiving. Survival was a daily struggle. They were skilled farmers, fishermen, and hunters, but they were warriors at heart. Their society was built on strength and courage. Raiding was a way of life, a chance to gain wealth and status, to prove their worth in the eyes of the gods. But they were not mindless barbarians. They were skilled craftsmen, poets, and storytellers. Their culture was rich and complex. The Viking longship, a marvel of engineering, fast, maneuverable, and deadly. It was their most feared weapon. Crafted from sturdy oak, it could withstand the roughest seas. Its shallow draft allowed it to navigate rivers and land on beaches. Rows of oars propelled the longship forward with incredible speed. Its iconic square sail harnessed the power of the wind. It was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of Viking might, a terror to all who saw it approaching.
Whispers traveled on the icy wind, tales of a rich land to the west, a land ripe for the taking.
This land was called England, a land of fertile fields and wealthy monasteries, a land that promised untold riches.
Bjorn's father, a seasoned chieftain, listened intently to these whispers. His eyes gleamed with avarice. He had tasted victory before. He yearned to lead his men to glory once more. England would be his greatest prize.
Section 6, The Sea's Fury. The longship cut through the waves. Bjorn, his heart pounding with anticipation, stood alongside his father.
The sea, a fickle mistress, had other plans.
A storm gathered on the horizon. Black clouds swallowed the sky. The wind howled like a banshee. Waves crashed over the bow, threatening to consume the ship. Bjorn had never seen such fury. The other warriors, seasoned veterans, were visibly shaken. Section 7, A Land in Mourning. The storm abated, leaving behind a sky painted in hues of gray and a sea that still roared with the echoes of its fury. The once mighty waves had calmed, but the scars of their wrath were evident. The longship, battered but unbroken, limped towards the shore. Its sails were torn, and the wooden hull bore the marks of a fierce battle with nature. The crew, weary and drenched, clung to their posts, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of land. They had been blown off course, far from their intended destination. The journey had been perilous, and the sea had shown no mercy. Each man aboard the ship had faced the very real possibility of never seeing their homeland again.
They found themselves in a small, sheltered cove. The waters here were calm, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just endured. It was a place of refuge, a temporary sanctuary from the relentless sea. But this was not the England of their dreams. The land that stretched before them was bleak and unwelcoming. The skies were overcast and a sense of desolation hung in the air. It was a far cry from the fertile and prosperous land they had envisioned. This land was shrouded in grief. The few inhabitants they encountered were somber and withdrawn, their faces etched with sorrow. It was clear that this place had been touched by tragedy.
A solitary figure stood on the beach, gazing out at the horizon. His posture was one of quiet contemplation, as if he were searching for answers in the vast expanse of the sea. An old man, his face etched with sorrow, approached the newcomers. His eyes, though weary, held a depth of wisdom and pain. He had seen much in his years, and the weight of his experiences was evident in every line on his face. He spoke of a terrible tragedy that had befallen their land. His voice, though soft, carried the weight of his sorrow. He recounted the events with a solemnity that left the listeners in a hushed silence. A plague had swept through the land, leaving devastation in its wake. It had come without warning, striking down the young and old alike. The once vibrant community had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Countless lives had been lost. The burial grounds were filled with fresh graves, and the air was thick with the scent of burning pyres. The community was in mourning, each person carrying the weight of their own personal loss. Their king, a good and just ruler, was dead. His passing had left a void that could not be filled. He had been a beacon of hope and strength for his people, and his loss was felt deeply by all. Section 8. Preparations for Vengeance. The Vikings were shocked. The news that reached their ears was unlike anything they had ever heard before. It was not just a simple raid or a skirmish, it was a calculated act of treachery that struck at the very heart of their community. The betrayal was deep, and the pain was palpable among the warriors. They had come for gold and glory, not to witness such suffering. Their dreams of riches and honor were now overshadowed by the grim reality of their situation. The hardships they encountered were not just physical, but emotional, as they saw their fellow Vikings in distress. The once hopeful expedition had turned into a nightmare, and the weight of their mission grew heavier with each passing moment. Bjorn felt a pang of sympathy. He was a young warrior, full of dreams and aspirations, but the sight of his suffering kin stirred something deep within him. He realized that their quest was no longer just about personal glory, it was about justice and retribution. The empathy he felt for his people fueled his determination to see this mission through, no matter the cost.
The old man, his voice trembling with rage, named those responsible. His words were filled with a fiery passion that ignited the hearts of the younger warriors. He spoke of the rival kingdom, their treachery, and their insatiable greed. The elder's intense expression left no doubt in anyone's mind that this was a call to arms, a rallying cry for vengeance. A rival kingdom, their greed knows no bounds. They had always been envious of the Vikings' prosperity and strength. Their jealousy had driven them to commit unspeakable acts, and now they had crossed a line that could not be ignored. The Vikings knew that this enemy would stop at nothing to see them fall, and it was time to put an end to their tyranny. They had poisoned the wells. This act of cowardice was meant to weaken the Vikings, to break their spirit and force them into submission. But instead of cowering in fear, the Vikings' resolve only grew stronger. The poisoned wells were a stark reminder of the enemy's treachery, and it fueled their desire for retribution even more.
Bjorn's father listened intently. He saw an opportunity. As a seasoned warrior and a wise leader, he understood the importance of seizing the moment. This was not just a chance to avenge the wrongs done to their people, but also an opportunity to unite the Vikings under a common cause. He knew that by offering his blade and the blades of his men, they could turn the tide of this conflict. A chance to offer his blade and the blades of his men in service of vengeance. The warriors, inspired by the elders' words and their leader's resolve, pledged their allegiance. They drew their swords, ready to fight for their honor and their people. The preparation for combat was not just a physical act, but a symbolic one, representing their unwavering commitment to their cause.
An alliance was forged. The Vikings, once divided by personal ambitions and rivalries, now stood united. Their shared goal of vengeance brought them together, and they knew that only through unity could they hope to succeed. The leaders discussed strategies, planned their moves, and prepared for the battle that lay ahead. The Vikings, their thirst for treasure temporarily forgotten, prepared for war. The clang of metal, the sharpening of weapons, and the assembling of armor filled the air. Each warrior knew the gravity of the situation and the importance of the task at hand. They were not just fighting for themselves but for their people, their honor, and their future. The preparations for vengeance were complete, and the Vikings were ready to face their enemies with unwavering determination. Section 9. The saga continues. The stage is set. The Vikings, led by Bjorn and his father, will unleash their fury. But will their quest for vengeance bring them the riches they crave?
And what of Bjorn? Will he prove himself worthy of his father's legacy?
Or will the capricious gods decide his fate? The saga continues.